Welcome back to another edition of The House That Alan Built. I'm Scott Kinmartin, with me as always,
Greg Vollmer.
And today we're going to talk about the Buffalo Bills playing the Kansas City Chiefs, Week 6 in Arrowhead.
You don't say. Another one in Kansas City.
I know.
God, haven't we been here before?
We certainly have. Third year in a row where we're playing against them in October, the second week of October. And we have some predictions to get into first.
Is this a big game?
It's a huge game.
The coaches and the players all week are going to be saying that generic, well, we only play the schedule of what's the next person up, what's the next team up, and right now we're just focused on the Chiefs, and we're just trying to go 1-0 this week, and it's just this next week, and it's one of however many remaining. This is a big game.
This is a big week.
Not only are they the team, they're our big brother. It's the big brother versus little brother. They've had our number in both the playoffs. Well, not the regular season. We beat them last regular season. But when it's counted, they've gotten us.
Yeah, when it matters most. We
got payback for what happened. We don't need to go into detail about what happened in the divisional round last year. But if we want the game to finally be in Buffalo and not have to go back to Kansas City a second time this year, then we need to win this game.
We've been good with clock management. Under Dorsey, he's been aggressive. So I'm hoping we keep that up. We right now go into the week as favorites in Kansas City.
It'll be interesting to see how that if that holds or how that's going to fluctuate.
Normally they give the home team 2 to 3 points, right? So if we're up by 2, that means, bettors are saying at least 3 to 5 points, right? Most people are actually overwhelmingly picking Kansas City against the spread. Not saying that they're going to win, but that it might be a 2-point game or a 1-point game. Like it's a push. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. So what is your prediction?
So over-under set at 54.5. I'm going to predict it's going to be a stressful game. It's not going to be like a game against the Titans or the Rams or the Steelers where we're going to be just chilling, having Labatt's and laughing it up in the fourth quarter while Allen sits on the sideline with his headset on.
We can't afford to make mistakes this game.
I think this is going to be a tight game. I'm going to say the Bills squeak it out 31-24. I think it could come down to whoever has the ball last or maybe our defense coming up with a crucial stop.
Who has the ball last? That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Some PTSD from last year. Sorry, go ahead, bud.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I'm going to say 31-24 Bills.
All right, so a touchdown
game.
And that covers the spread by half a point.
Yeah.
So you're on the over, which I think I'm picking the over for the first time. I say Bills win 33-30.
In a barn burner.
It's certainly, well, let's hope that our defense plays as well as it has, and any of those points scored by KC's in the first half, and we're making we're putting our foot down on the gas in that second half and not looking back.
If we can shut the Chiefs out in the second half, I will be thoroughly impressed. That would be something to write home about.
Well, the good thing is we didn't have Poyer last week because they didn't feel like, they needed him against the Steelers, and that proved to be right.
Well, yeah, there's reports coming out that says that had this been against a team like the Chiefs where it's more like we have to win this game, not that we didn't have to beat the Steelers, but if it would have been the Chiefs up, I think that they would have played him.
It's good to have your depth out there, getting experience against, say, the Steelers before the Chiefs, but it also lets your starters and your key contributors rest if they need it. So Poyer should be back, Knox likely back, McKenzie back, Edmonds back. So we will go in much stronger on offense and defense.
And for those of you that are holding your breath about if Trey White's going to be back, I would not do it. If I was a betting man, I would bet we are not going to see him until after the bye. I think they're going to unveil him and get his return from that horrible knee injury. They're going to return him, I think, on the Sunday night game, home game against the Packers after the bye week.
That would be nice. That would be very nice. Let's talk about the Bills' offense versus Kansas City's offense. Looks like if we're comparing the two, you've got the Bills with the number 1 passing yards right now, and KC 6th in passing. They're both even in rushing. It's 14th for the Bills and 13th for Kansas City. But we're talking about 0.6 yards more per game for the Chiefs. And even though Mahomes isn't really running a lot, Allen is. So if they eliminate that might change things and make it harder on Singletary, Moss, Cook. Right now we're talking about Kansas City's offense coming in at number 1 and Bills right behind them at number 2. So depending on how the Monday night game goes, you're the top two, no matter what. You've got the top two
Bills,
quarterbacks.
yeah, and you've got the Bills leading the league in total yards per game at 448.2, and the Chiefs at 7th, just under 394.
It pretty much goes without saying that when you're talking about these offenses, it's going to be Allen versus Mahomes, and two of the most elite quarterbacks in the league, not just now, but probably ever when it's all said and done. I started doing comparisons of the two, and we'll get to that, but this is their 5th matchup in 3 years. So they played October 19th, 2020. They played in the postseason that year. We lost both of those games. And then we played October 10th, 2021. We finally beat them in Kansas City, 38-20. Then last year in the postseason, we lost to them in that shootout, 42-36 in overtime. And this should be a great game. When you look at Mahomes' career so far, 67 regular season games before Monday night. Josh Allen, 66. Mahomes was drafted a year earlier, but he only played one game behind Alex Smith. So looking at their numbers here,
it's quite the breakdown.
It is. So Mahomes, 20,097 yards in 67 games to Allen's 15,765. So you're looking at QBR of 106 and then 93 for Allen. You're looking at touchdowns. Mahomes has thrown 172, Allen 117. Mahomes has thrown 39 interceptions, Allen has thrown 50. Rushing, Allen has basically twice as many yards. Mahomes has 251 for 1,253 yards, 8 touchdowns. This is where Allen separates himself. He has 457 rushes for 2,550 yards. So twice as many rushes, twice as many yards, but 33 rushing touchdowns. That may be needed in the goal line this week. We'll see.
What blows my mind is the difference in pass yards. Only one more game for Mahomes, and he's got damn near 5,000 more.
Yeah, 4,400 more yards. Yeah.
40,
Isn't that nuts?
It's wild.
That's a whole season. Because think about it. With Tyreek and Kelsey, he was just 400 yards a game for a while. You know, so yards per attempt, though, if you break it down, I also did this. I broke down postseason. And this is the part that really stood out to me. Yes, Mahomes is throwing for more yards. We knew that, even though Allen now has a really nice, pretty deep ball. He always really has. But Mahomes has 11 games in the postseason in his career so far. And Allen has had 6. Now, those numbers I told you don't include the postseason because they never do. Regular season is very separately. Otherwise, it's unfair to anyone who's on a team like Stafford for the Lions. If you're comparing him to Tom Brady, it just doesn't make sense because Brady's in the playoffs every year.
Yep.
So their QBR almost identical. Mahomes 105.7, Allen 106.6. Yards per game, Mahomes 307.4, Allen 286.3. Yards per attempt, Mahomes 8, Allen 7.5. Now we get into Mahomes in the playoffs. 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Allen, 14 touchdowns, 1 interception. And it was 2 years ago. He went 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions last year in the playoffs. Rushing, once again, Allen has double the amount of yards. Mahomes has around 30, Allen has around 62. But Mahomes has 5 rushing touchdowns to Allen's 1. In the playoffs, Allen just wants to beat you with his arm.
Yeah, I mean,
when it comes to goal line, you're right. It
does surprise me that that Mahomes has that many more rushing touchdowns, but he's had a few more games. He's had twice as many games almost.
Basically, so. Yeah. We know the Allen and Mahomes comparisons, right? What about the other guys? You got to talk about Diggs and Davis versus, let's say, their best, which would be Kelsey for sure, and then probably Juju, Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore.
I mean, I was going to say, if it wasn't Kelsey, I was going to say, obviously, Tyreek Hill, but he's not on that team anymore, and I feel like Kelsey is the bona fide number 1 threat week in and week out that teams haven't found a solution for.
Seriously.
It's a mismatch every single week, I feel like, and it's going to be hard, but if we can try to slow him down.
In 9 years, he has close to 10,000 yards, and including the playoffs, it's actually closer to 11,000 because he's had so much playoff experience.
I mean, he's already got more receiving yards than Smith-Schuster, and he's got 3 touchdowns to
as a tight end in 4 games, right? Because they have to play tonight.
Yeah,
that is nuts. So
he's clearly their number 1 weapon.
And right now, Diggs and Davis coming on after having an injury and then trying to play through it. He's got 309 yards and 3 touchdowns. Diggs has 508 yards and 5 touchdowns. Now we get to see those young guys. It'll be Khalil Shakir on our side, Sky Moore on their side. We've got James Cook. They've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We'll see who's going to be the passing back. They've got McKinnon
And
still.
their rookie Isaiah Pacheco
Yeah, Pacheco is really good.
looked damn good against the Bucks. I know
It's bigger than I thought.
He kind of closed out the game for him a little bit, got his opportunity when they were up in the fourth quarter, but he was running like angry, and I think it was like he averaged like 6+ yards per carry with what he got.
You know, we just had James Cook last week score the first non-Allen touchdown for the Bills, where Clyde Edwards-Helaire has 5 or 6 touchdowns already. Or catching the ball, I think he has 3 and rushing 2 or vice versa. We need to be that diverse, and we need to have guys that we can spread it out to. And you know what I would like to see, and we talked about this earlier? They do that little stupid shovel pass to Kelsey at the goal line.
Oh yeah,
we did that.
They'll wait for the play to develop, and Mahomes will act like he's looking at like a cross route, and then Kelsey sneaks in front of him, and he just does a toss to Kelsey, and Kelsey usually just kind of rolls into the end zone.
Yep.
And we tried to do it with Morris, and we fumbled it, but.
Yeah, maybe if they put Gilliam out there. You know, Gilliam's only played it in 2 games where he's on the stat sheet. So he's out there blocking because he's more of an H-back, fullback, tight end. It's so random because 2 weeks ago, Singletary had 11 targets for receiving, and then last week he had 1. And now we bring in Cook. Of course, that was in like the third, fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But if our O-line stays strong and Allen goes untouched with these guys, with these young guys, for Kansas City, they actually have older guys. They've got Chris Jones and Frank Clark, and I just don't know where this game's going to go. It could be an exciting game either way, and I hope it's
I just
in our
hope
favor.
these defensive coordinators for the Bills and the Chiefs have their Advil or ibuprofen ready this week because they're going to be having headaches preparing. You know what makes me excited is that if we have a healthy Diggs and a healthy Davis, which we had against the Steelers and we saw what happened. You add in a healthy McKenzie if we get him back. Now Khalil Shakir, knowing what he can do. If we have Fort Knox. I mean, talk about all these weapons that Allen can spread it to. And if we can still be effective enough with the run game with Singletary and Cook.
Yep.
I mean, good luck stopping us. I mean, I feel like it's going to be one of those games that each team scores almost at will at times. It's going to be, what defense steps up? Can you get an opportunistic turnover? Can you get some sacks? Can you make, is Allen going to get uncomfortable? Are they going to be able to make Mahomes uncomfortable? But I just see it being a close back and forth battle, much like what we saw in last year's playoffs. And it's, which I feel better going in this time around, having a person like Von Miller, having Gregory Rousseau, who's clearly taken the next step.
Regardless of the outcome here, though, we are a 4-1 team. Playing likely after they play the Raiders, a 4-1 team. If we lose in regular season, during our week 1 predictions for the season, I said this would be our first loss. And obviously I changed, like when you changed against the Ravens. You have a change of heart, things change, injuries happen. I feel like last year we went in there and we pounded them 38-20 in the regular season, lost when it mattered. But we had their number, and now we're that much closer, which is why on the road we're still favorites. And I feel like they could do it. They need to stay out of their own way.
Yeah.
Play a clean game and win their turnover game.
I feel like last year at the last quarter of the season is when you started to see the offense put the knife to the throat and not let loose and
they really haven't let go.
And now this year we kind of started almost like last year, minus the Dolphins game where it's been like we put the knife to your throat early and we do not let off, and then we embarrass you. And so that's why, even though I'm nervous going into this game because I have so much respect for that opponent in Mahomes and Andy Reid and this team that can embarrass us. We've been embarrassing teams. This Chiefs, if we're not on our P's and Q's, they can embarrass us too, just how good as good as of a team as we are. So, but I have that respect for them. But it's like we started out like we ended last year where we've just been demolishing teams. And granted, the Steelers came into a tough situation with a rookie quarterback, but it still counts all the same in the win column. And it's just like we've been dominating teams. So I want to say we'll come back to earth in a way this upcoming week, but I still don't see a Chiefs defense containing us. With all the weapons we have.
We're not only the top 2 on offense, and they have a great offense as well. That's where we're different. On defense right now, we are first in points against, 12.2 points per game, and they've allowed 24 points per game. So they've literally allowed twice as many points. And when you're talking about turnovers, they've had 1 interception, and we are leading the league. It's huge. If we can keep with that, that'd be great.
And if Poyer's back, having that leadership again, and he's such a ball hawk.
If we're healthier, you've got McDermott, who comes from the Reid system, but Reid's more offensive oriented,
Yeah.
but McDermott knows his offense. He knows his mind for the most part. He does constantly evolve, especially for an older coach. These are going to be two well-coached teams, very talented teams, high-powered teams. I don't even know what else to say other than
like watching them, watching the Chiefs against the Colts. That was kind of their hiccup so far this year. We had the hiccup against the Dolphins, if you will, if
Yeah.
you want to call it that. They
Yep.
lost kind of an unexpected game to the Colts. Now you've got a battle royale, two high-powered teams of the AFC, cream of the crop of the AFC. You've got the Bills that have already beat this team in the regular season, but they've got the ghosts of January past coming back to, trying to
Yep.
get rid of those demons of just the experiences now that we've had against this team in the playoffs. We're trying to right or wrong there, and it's to get to the Super Bowl is going to start on Sunday in Arrowhead, where we need to get this win to maintain a grip on going for that number one seed in the AFC. Because I know me, and I can speak for Bills Mafia too. We do not want to have to go to Kansas City again after this weekend.
no.
If we are going to play again after this weekend, I want it to be in Buffalo, and I know Bills Mafia would want that too.
Last year, that loss against Jacksonville really set us from that first seed.
That
to
or the Titans game
taking
was it.
That's true. Yeah, the little
We lost
slip up.
the slip to the Titans.
it
Either
happens.
one, pick them. We would have
But
been number one seed.
Then if we were number one seed and Casey had to come to us, it might have been different. They obviously have some home field advantage. Arrowhead is super loud. It's a great stadium.
Most definitely.
They have a good fan base. So this is going to be a hell of a matchup no matter what. We know offense and defense. We've talked about it. Special teams now. I love Tyler Bass. They have Harrison Butker, but he's been injured since week 1. He's a great all-pro kicker, but we don't know if he's going to be back yet. Either way, they've had some kicking woes. Maybe they miss a field goal or two, and that is the difference in the game.
I think what makes me a little nervous is just seeing what they did to the Bucks. And granted, the Bucks are a beat up team, much like the Bills have been beat up. And I guess it's just kind of that battle of attrition and who can make up for that with their depth. And we've already discussed how good our depth is. But I guess that made me nervous going into this. Is just that you've got the Bills' high powered offense that's seemingly been unstoppable for most of the season. Then you've got the Chiefs, and they had this hiccup against the Colts, but then they put up 41 against what was supposed to be one of the best defenses in the league, in the Bucks.
And you're texting me, you're like, man, I'm worried about the Chiefs again. I mean, you just get reminded when everyone's talking about Mahomes, or sorry, Allen.
It's like
Lamar,
the Michael Jordan,
Lamar.
anything you can do, I can do better. And it's kind of been like anything that we try to do, they do better.
Which makes me wonder about how the game's going to go with the Raiders, because Mahomes watches Allen throw for 424 yards. He's like, I can top that. I'll go for 500.
Well, and he's that competitive too.
Yes.
And it's not, they have the utmost respect for each other. That's been documented, but they are both insane competitors. And yeah, would not boggle my mind if he was like that, where he's like, okay, I got to keep pace in this AFC and this MVP race, and by doing that, it'll help give my team a better chance to win tonight. I mean, they're crazy competitors. They're both class acts. They're both cream of the crop on top of the best quarterbacks in the AFC. And quite frankly, not only is it just good TV, it's great for the NFL. I know Roger Goodell loves it. Talk about good for ratings. Having games like this every year where you've got these talents battling it out. I mean, it is going to be must-see TV, and it's only October, which is awesome, because I'm sure the NFL wants them to meet again in the playoffs, and they likely will if things keep on going the way they have been.
They started promoting this in the offseason. Once the schedule came out, they knew.
Which is still weird that they made it a late game in the afternoon and not the prime time, either Sunday or Monday night. Yeah. I don't know. It seems odd to me that it's the game of the week in the late slot on Sunday, but
it's because it's with their number one group. They've got Romo and Nance.
Yeah.
So they're on CBS 425, 125-hour time.
Yeah, to me, this just had another like Sunday or Monday night game written all over it, but I know that's not how the schedule worked out.
But you're only supposed to have 5 primetime. Right now, as it falls, we basically have 6. So
and maybe
complaints.
maybe this is good to just have it be a daytime game. As much as Allen seems to show
nationally
up,
televised,
both Allen and Mahomes seem to show up when the lights are on.
Yep.
But maybe this will be good to just have it be, still a semi-day game. The lights will be on for the end of it, right, as the sun goes down. But it's like, having this afternoon game, a little bit of a different feel than prime time. It's still going to have the prime time feel in the playoff field, but you're not going to have the pomp and circumstance.
Hell, for me, I grew up on the East Coast. It's going to remind me of a regular 1 o'clock game, even though it's 125-hour time. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it now. We're talking Monday. So we started doing this a little sooner. So there might be some updates we're going to miss, like injuries and stuff like that. But
we'll try to keep it updated in the comments, too, if anything pertinent happens that would affect potential outcomes of the game.
And maybe while we're talking here, I can put up the score, because by the time this goes up, the Raiders-KC game will already be over. Greg's prediction of 31-24, that could totally be possible, and it could be the other way around.
We've been pretty close with our predictions so far this season.
We
too.
have, and
I mean, it has
not
not
to
been...
be homers. We've been good. I mean, you kind of switched out your Ravens game where you'd basically have the same record as the Bills, and me too. 33-30, I predicted.
think, and being a Bills fan, you know, you're always going to have that part of you that wants to be nervous. And man, are they the real deal? You've got this kind of like you don't know if you should fully buy in, but you see the way the Bills have been playing, and they've been beat up, and they've played with so much confidence that how can you not be confident? And if the Bills had lost to them in the regular season last year, I'd be a little nervous, but they beat them in the regular season last year, and they did it convincingly, and they almost go into KC again and win in what could go down as one of the best playoff games in NFL history. It's just the Bills have no lack of confidence and swagger, and that's what they need to go in and win any kind of a game like this against quite frankly, a class act opponent in the Chiefs.
They're getting hot again at the right time, and I'm ready for it. So get ready.
Last big hurrah before the bye week.
That's true. Yeah, next week we'll have to do something, but it'll be a little different. We'll talk about what to expect for the week afterwards. Like you said, we played the Packers, right?
Yeah, we'll host the Packers Sunday Night Football coming off the bye.
Oh yeah.
Do a quick fantasy corner.
Yeah, what do you have?
So I forgot to do a where I was right and where I was wrong as far as giving two pieces of advice for last week's podcast. So I'm not going to have a where I was right or where I was wrong this week. So I'm just going to go over some hot waiver wire pickups, either some players to consider picking up before your next weekend's matchups, some defenses that you could be looking to stream if you've been streaming defenses every week. So names to look out for. Obviously, Kenneth Walker is going to be a huge waiver add this week. Rashad Penny, you are at this point now in the season where he is injured. You are at this point now. He is now. He didn't make it past much more than a month, and he's injured again. The dude is such a talent, but he can't stay healthy. Yep. So now, if you have Kenneth Walker, good on you, because he's probably going to instantly go into RB1-2 territory. If he's available on the waivers still, put in a bid for him, because he will, if you need that immediate impact
right away,
and you've got injuries. He should be used early and often. That's kind of how Pete Carroll likes to do it with his backs. He uses them.
And if you were watching the Bills-Steelers game last week, you saw George Pickens.
Yes, George Pickens, another person with high upside. If he's available in any of the leagues, in 12 to 14-man leagues, he's probably going to. It's very unlikely he'll still be available. In 10 and below, he's probably still going to be available in some. He's clearly shows that he's got more chemistry than with Pickett than he had with.
Pickett to Pickens.
Yeah,
Trubisky.
than what he had with Trubisky. So something to keep an eye on there. He could end up being very influential on fantasy teams going down the stretch as we go into the second half of the season. And then you've got Khalil Shakir,
who you just picked up.
I picked up in your league. That's a sneaky little pickup if you're looking for some wide receiver depth. I think he's only going to keep on getting more chances. Josh Allen's already shown that he's got a vote of confidence in him.
Even if McKenzie's back, I feel like he's earned a role in some way.
Yeah. And then you've got Hayden Hurst. If he's still floating around on the tight end waivers. He had a comeback game. You
could tell.
He had a revenge game against his former team, the Ravens.
You called it. And of course, after he scored, he's over there taunting the crowd because I feel like that didn't end well.
He put up 14 points in half PPR leagues this past weekend. So again, the fickle tight end position, that's always making people want to pull their hair out.
Speaking of tight ends, let's talk about what may or may not be considered a tight end in fantasy football.
Taysom Hill.
What's going on?
Yeah, okay. So Taysom Hill, in half PPR leagues, at least in ESPN formats, he put up the 35 points.
In our league, he put up 40.
Okay, so here's the crazy part. He's listed in ESPN currently as a tight end only. In Yahoo formats, he's listed as a tight end / quarterback. This has kind of created an uproar in leagues where you've got some commissioners that are threatening to take people off the out of the league that have picked them up, or they're like, no, you can't use them as a tight end. You can only use them as a flex or this or that. It's kind of created a little bit of uproar in the fantasy community. I'm not sure what's going to happen with it. To me, he's just got to be designated as one or the other.
But he's kind of breaking that norm that really we're used to playing a quarterback.
Yeah.
And the reason why you pick Allen isn't just because he can throw the ball, but he
run
runs. So those extra 33 TDs over the last 4 seasons, that's huge.
So I guess if he's listed in ESPN, if he's listed as a tight end,
he hasn't played quarterback. If anything,
touchdown passes as a tight end, but you're still getting tight end points. It's kind of
and
this
he's
weird
rushing.
loophole.
He's
right
rushing.
now.
It's like when Patterson was receiving and rushing. It's like, okay, you're going to get a point every 10 yards, right?
Yeah.
No matter what,
Yeah.
unless you're passing.
Yeah.
Then it's one every 20 yards.
So, anyways, this is bizarre. This is kind of I've been playing fantasy for a long time, and this is kind of one of those interesting situations you don't run into very often.
What about your defenses?
Defenses. So I've been hot and cold on defensive streamers. In my personal leagues, I've stuck with the Eagles for the most part. I did stream the Bengals one week because I was afraid the Eagles were going to give up a lot of points to the Jaguars. Ended up being where I should have just stayed with the Eagles. This week I stay with the Eagles. They only put up 4 points against the Cardinals. They had some trouble containing Murray, like I said on the prior podcast, and that really hurt their total output this past week. This week, though, if you're looking for some sneaky starts where you're like, hey, I'm looking for a dart throw to try to get an edge on my opponent in what could be a close matchup or what have you, I'm going for the 49ers defense at Atlanta. I think they're a little bit beat up, but I think it's still they've been producing. If you look at them, I believe they're a top 13 or top 12 defense in ESPN formats. So I'm looking at the 49ers defense at Atlanta. Just bear with me on this one. I'm looking at the Washington Commanders defense at Chicago on Thursday night, which I pray to God is going to be more of an entertaining game.
Chicago hasn't had an offense. So
my
maybe.
God, yeah. The Commanders' defense has been so-so, but they've been opportunistic at times, and you're going against a very shaky Bears offense. Thursday night games are historically sloppy. Maybe you'll get a kickoff return or a fumble return or a pick six. So let's just pray that this Thursday night game is better than the one we got against the Broncos and the Russell Wilson and
Denver Broncos
versus the Colts last Thursday.
12-9.
So let's hope it's more entertaining than that, because that was a rough game for the NFL world.
One that was even less entertaining. Patriots winning 29-0.
Yeah.
So are you picking their defense this week then?
Yeah, I am picking the Patriots defense as another dart throw streamer this week against the Browns at Cleveland.
The Browns have a pretty good offense.
Browns do have a good offense. I just see the Patriots being opportunistic, and Belichick's always wanting to play tough against the Browns because he used to coach them. And,
that's right. Yep.
So anyways, those three, if you're wanting to just take a chance, 49ers defense, Commanders defense, and the Patriots defense. And that, or if you're holding true to the defenses you've already had, that's fine.
I drafted one in the 9th round. I got a lot of crap for it.
The Bucks, right?
My brother drafted the Bills right before that, and I'm like, well, crap. Now I got to go elsewhere. So I went with the Bucks, and I've stuck with them. The lowest they've scored me is 4 points, and I'll take it.
It just depends. It just depends on what strategy I use from week to week. But
sure.
I've been sticking with the Eagles for now. It doesn't mean I might not weigh my options down the road, or if I've got a bye, once the Eagles have a bye, you're going to have to figure something out. So it's always that strategy that's fun with fantasy.
Fantasy there's a lot of luck. It's like some people don't want to use a kicker or defense because it's about matchups, right? You might have the best kicker in the league, Tucker, right? But if you end up in a game where it's 28-24, then that means he got you 4 points, four PATs. The
thing about fantasy is it takes some luck, it takes some skill, and it takes being opportunistic too. So what I try to always do is, like, if I do a waiver wire ad, I try to be ahead of it by a week.
Yep.
Where when you get that person on your roster, you're already seeing the next week where someone's typing up an ESPN expert or a fantasy expert where they're like, here's the waiver ads of this week. And you've already gotten one of them.
What I like about the Yahoo format is you can see they'll have red or green depending on what kind of offense or defense they are playing against. And if you get a defense and you see that they're playing a weak offense, 4 weeks in a row, that's when you grab them, but you're not really streaming them 1 week. You're going with them 3-4 weeks. And if they happen to have a bad week, maybe you dump them for another team.
Yeah, and that's that statistical analysis. You're looking at weeks ahead and trying to play chess. And with that said, it's like I looked this past week when I was deciding what big waiver ad I was going to make. I decided to add Kenneth Walker before kind of later into the week before the games hit this weekend. And
sure enough, it worked.
I had a sneaking suspicion that Rashad Penny wasn't going to stay healthy. It's not that I was wishing him bad health.
I traded for him.
I just felt like Rashad Penny wasn't going to stay healthy. So Kenneth Walker was laying there on the waivers. I knew that one of my opponents had Rashad Penny. He was top in the league. Right? He's a top
you should have
team.
Handcuffed him.
And so I made that. Hey, it's all is fair in love and war and fantasy, right? I added him, not knowing that he was going to all of a sudden next week going to potentially be a RB1, RB2. It just sometimes works out that way, and you call it luck, skill, whatever. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, as they say.
Yeah. So is that fantasy talk?
That's fantasy talk. We
right.
got 2 more Josh Allen cards real quick to
So
show.
I'll start it. This one here just so happens to be Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen
Well, look at
instant from January 23rd, 2022. And this on the back, it says, in an instant classic, the Bills and Chiefs squared off in a back-and-forth thriller. Allen was spectacular, putting his team in position to win with 397 total yards and 4 touchdown passes.
All to Gabe Davis.
Yep. Mahomes matched that superstar effort with 4 TDs of his own, and the last of which was a game-winning score in overtime.
Anything you can do, I can do better. Let's hope Allen is better than him this time around.
All right, what do we have here, bud?
This one, we got ourselves a 2020 Panini Contenders Optic Football Josh Allen. This one's called The End Zone. It's got a photo of him doing what he often does, diving in for a touchdown. Get you those fantasy points. Got some cool holographics on there.
Yeah, I like it.
Man, what an epic matchup we have coming up here this upcoming Sunday. Bills Mafia, to all of you traveling to Kansas City, to Arrowhead to watch the game. Be loud, be proud. I know it's going to be hard to out yell those crazy Chiefs fans, and I mean Bills fans have a lot of respect for Chiefs fans because we know how loyal they are, and they pack that. It's not like LA. They're not like LA fans who half of them show up and the other half's filled with the other team's
They're there
players.
no matter what.
But hey, bring the energy, pound those Labats, jump through those tables during tailgate time responsibly, of course. And don't forget, as always, take a few hydration breaks. We love you, Bills Mafia. Have fun as you travel with the family and friends to go see this one in Kansas City. It's sure to be another blockbuster game. We can only hope it's an instant classic like the one we saw last year, except let's hope we're on the other end of it this time.
Well, on behalf of Greg Vollmer, I'm Scott Kinmartin. You're watching The House That Allen Built. We will see you after the game. Let's
go Buffalo!
Welcome back to The House That Allen Built. This is the Week 6 preview of the Buffalo Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs. How we doing? I am Scott Kinmartin. With me, as always,
Greg Vollmer.
And I want to know your... Let's do that again. You knew I was off when I said how we doing. And I'm like, oh. All right. So without a doubt, the biggest matchup is going to be Allen.
Someone's at the front door.
And now, here we go with
it'll
the
be
fifth.
the sixth time then. So that was...
No, if you do the math, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. You should be sorry. Now go in your...
All right.
That's going
Okay.
in. That's
All
going
right.
in.
Okay.
That's going in. I'd put the fan on, but it would just blow right at me. Okay, we had to restart.
Okay.